Hello and welcome back to the My First Marathon podcast, where we interview runners in all stages of their running careers about their first time experiences to prove to you that anyone can run a marathon. My name is Taylor, and today's story starts at 53 with a couch to 5K plan that led Sheila to a new love for running through community, family support, and a whole lot of persistence. All was well until 2015 when she faced a breast cancer diagnosis, and instead of letting it keep her down, she mustered up all the anger she had and ended up PRing a 5K the week before surgery and then came back to running post-cancer with a new sense of gratitude. By 59, she said yes to a full, joined a training group, and started her journey to becoming a marathoner. She journaled her training with song lyrics, dedicated late race miles to the people she loves, and finished her first marathon in Hartford under the Soldiers and Sailors Arch with tears, pride, and a feeling that her life had changed. Since then, she's ran 7 marathons, embraced being back of the pack, and is now aiming for Boston as a charity runner for a cause close to her heart. This conversation is about starting later, starting scared, and letting running change what you believe is possible. Without further ado, let's jump right in. Please welcome Sheila. Okay. Sheila, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I'm super excited to have you. We were chatting a little bit before, but running has really come to you like later in life. So I think this is going to be a unique one to tell. I'm excited for all the stories. But first, just thank you for coming on. I'm excited to talk to you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm such a big fan of your podcast, and you're such a wonderful listener that you really elicit stories from everyone that in the most interesting way. So I'm really thrilled to be here.
Thank you so much. That's so sweet. Well, cool. Well, let's jump into your story. We always like to start from the beginning. So where did movement start for you? How did this whole journey begin for you?
So I started running at the age of 53. And I'm 65 now, so it's a little bit later. But up until that time, I would have been voted person least likely to run a marathon.
Yeah.
I was not athletic at all. Did what I had to do in high school and was not in college. My roommate and I decided we were going to go for a run, and we went out there and we did absolutely everything wrong. We didn't have proper anything on our bodies, footwear, gear. We ran as fast as we could. We got terribly out of breath, and we said, "Oh, that's terrible. Why would anyone want to do that?" And then, life went on. I had a really wonderful career I was working hard at. I raised 2 children. I went to their activities, but I didn't really do anything in terms of my own body. Yeah. And eventually, at the age of 53, my kids were all grown. And I was feeling kind of stuck. I felt like I just went to work, came home. My life was just one cycle after another, and it was kind of boring me. And also, I was very overweight. So I went to Weight Watchers, as many people do, to lose weight. And that was back when they had in-person meetings. And someone in the meeting shared with me this Couch to 5K app. And Weight Watchers was a fan of physical activity, not just healthy eating. So I said, okay, I'll commit to this and I'll download that app.
Cool.
And that's how I got started. And the app was perfect because, of course, you start by just running 1 minute, and then you walk for 3 minutes. And I was like, all right, I can do that,
Yeah.
Then it got harder. It started getting longer distances. And to be honest, there were some weeks that I had to repeat. I couldn't even finish the week.
Sure.
But that was okay. I was in no hurry. It didn't have to be 8 weeks, even though it was an 8-week app. So it probably took me 10 weeks or more. But I got to the point where I could now run about 2 miles. And I remember my college age son running with me on one of my runs. And he's like, "You can do it, Mom." I was struggling, and he was so encouraging. And it warmed my heart, honestly.
Yeah.
And at that time, to be honest, at the end of almost every run, I was feeling nauseous, which, in hindsight probably means I was running too fast still.
Sure.
And I wasn't hydrating. I knew nothing about fueling. I mean, none of that stuff. But eventually I finished the app, and I entered my first 5K, which was the electric run. It was a glow in the dark nighttime run, which was really more like one big dance party.
Yeah. It sounds really fun.
It was really fun. And you would kind of stop along the way and admire these glow in the dark exhibits. And it was really fun. But I remember getting to the end, and I didn't know if I was going to make it, to be honest. My husband was waiting for me at the finish line, and he's my biggest fan, and he was so enthusiastic. And he was so proud of me. I managed to finish, and that was a high. That's probably the only runner's high I've ever experienced, is
Sure.
that finish line. So that was really exciting. So that was the beginning of the journey. And then I kept entering 5Ks, and it really enjoying the race energy and the community and the people around me. It was just so positive. And then, you run 5Ks for a couple of years, and then this little thought comes into the brain, maybe I could run a 10K.
Yeah.
And so I entered my first 10K and was able to do that. I was like, oh, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And then that little voice comes out again, and it says, maybe I could run a half marathon.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure if I could run a half marathon, but by this point in maybe 2017 or so, my husband and I had been going to the gym, working out. We had a regular routine. We were working with a trainer. I probably was more fit then than I was in my 20s.
That's
And
awesome.
so I was like, maybe I could do this. And my trainer was encouraging. He said, I'll even run it with you. So I entered my
Love that.
first half marathon, and I couldn't believe that I finished. I mean, I did it. I felt good. I finished. It was amazing. It was amazing. And it was just something I never thought I could do. So it was great.
Yeah.
And so some of my best runs, really, honestly, were the ones that I took with my kids. I remember running once, and I would get a side stitch, and my son was trying to coach me through it. Or my daughter-in-law was a runner, and we did a couple of runs. We ran all the way up this really steep hill, and I really hated hills, only to discover that the trail we were looking for, we didn't actually have to climb that hill. But it's still a really fond memory for me, because when my son or my daughter-in-law and I would run, it would be like a bonding moment. We would kind of share things that you wouldn't otherwise share. And it was awesome. And mostly I just got to listen, because I can't talk and run at the same time.
Sure.
I'm too busy breathing hard.
Sure. That's that. You have to have people that can yap while you run. It's a good partnership for sure.
Yeah, so I learned more about probably what was going on in their world during those runs than I otherwise would have. It was awesome. And they were so encouraging. I'm really lucky to have that. And so then for 2017 to 2019, I would say things like, running a half marathon is an awesome accomplishment, which is true. And I would say things like, I can't run more than a half marathon, which is false. And I would say things like, I don't have time to train for more than this, which is sort of true, but you make the time.
Yeah.
And at that time I was still working. And then I would say the worst thing of all, I would say, at my age, you can't suddenly start to run marathons.
Yeah.
And that is absolutely, absolutely false. And that's why I wanted to come onto your show, because I was 59 years old when the big idea hit.
Yeah. I love that. And our tagline here is anyone can run a marathon. So when I saw your form come in, I was so excited, because we've had a lot of, I think, representation on the show of different types of runners. But I was really excited that you were going to come on and talk about this, because it really is anyone, like anyone at any time in your life, you can start this. So
absolutely. And I mean, I heard
great.
I heard your mom's interview just this week, and that was so exciting as well. And she was so inspirational. But I don't know what happened at 59. I think I saw that 60th birthday coming up, and I thought, if I'm ever going to run a full marathon, maybe I should do it before I'm 60.
Yeah.
And there was another motivator. Back in 2015, I was training for a half marathon, and 2015, is that right? Yeah, I wanted to run a half marathon, and it was going to be my first, and I was training for it. I was training so hard, and I was so ready, and it was going to be a fall marathon in October. And in September, I got diagnosed with breast cancer.
Oh my gosh.
And my surgery was scheduled for the date that I was supposed to run the half marathon. I mean, I had been signed up, I was trained up, and I was so angry that this had happened. And, I mean, so I had to go through surgery, radiation, chemotherapy, the whole bit. So 2015 was kind of a break in the running.
Sure. Sure.
And I remember there was a 5K scheduled the weekend before my surgery. And I entered that 5K, and that is my PR for the 5K because
Stop.
that was my FU cancer race.
Let's go. I love that. That's
So,
amazing.
and I
Yes.
ran so fast. And of course, I was trained for the half, so that helped.
Yes.
And to this day, I'm never going to beat that 5K pace. Hopefully, I won't have another race with that kind of emotion poured into it.
Sure.
But that experience, obviously, when I finished all of my treatment, I had such a new gratitude for living and a gratitude for a body that could get out there and run.
Yeah.
And one of my best runs immediately after that, I did like a little 2-mile run, and I had to walk, but it was while I was still getting chemo. And I remember crying of happy tears that I was out there. And every year since then has been a gift. And so again, fast forward to 2019, I'm like, I'm alive. I can get out there. I can run. Maybe I'll just try running one marathon. So immediately, before I had the chance to even change my mind, I think the thought was in my head for probably all of 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I went online and I signed up for a marathon.
Yes.
And then I found a training program. My local Fleet Feet running store had a marathon training program.
Cool.
And so I joined that. And I'm like, all right, I've put the money down.
Here we go.
I'm committed. Here we go.
Yes.
Here we go.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much that you were able to, I mean, that something like that happening is obviously a horrible thing, but it sounds like you were able to get so much out of it. And I do think that situations like that and even as minor scale as having an injury going through training, like it really does put into perspective how lucky we are to be out here running and moving our bodies. And I love that you were able to reframe that and turn something that could have, been a terrible life experience for you into something that was so, life-changing. That's amazing.
Yeah. Just an overwhelming sense of gratitude. Absolutely. And,
yes.
So I actually kept a journal of my running and training because it was such a momentous event in my life. So periodically I might refer to that journal.
Please do.
But, every week I showed up at Fleet Feet that we did a Sunday long run together. And we started out at 10 miles. And I remember that first Sunday I was so exhausted. I was exhausted. Just even that first long run, I thought, I might be in trouble here.
Sure.
But, I kept showing up and it was so wonderful. They had coaches that were so encouraging and so warm, and they would come back. I was always like one of the last runners to come in, and they would always come back and check on me. They wouldn't leave me out there alone.
That's
and
great.
they gave tips, about nutrition and, all of this kind of stuff, and how to run in good form and all of that. And so it was so helpful really to do it with a group.
Sure.
And I would do my runs in between on my own. I'm really lucky. I live in an area, we have a rails to trails type of situation. So I have a wonderful, safe place to train that's mostly flat. So that helped. And I would do about 5 runs a week. And then every week, of course, at Fleet Feet, the long run would get a couple miles longer, couple miles longer, couple miles longer. And then every third week or so, they would have a cutback week that was shorter. But on the weeks that were shorter, they would force us to run hills, which...
That was nice of them, wasn't it?
Yeah, I had to walk up every single hill.
Sure.
And I was like, oh, this is just torture. And I'm happy to say that by the end of the training plan, I was able to run up some of those hills. But
it
helps. Yeah, the training program works. But one of the days that we were training, it was going to be a high of 105 degrees because this was summer training. And I remember they suggested that we either not do it at all or shorten the distance or run slower. We started a half an hour earlier. They had salt tablets available for us, and they drove around in a car, and they had someone drive to make sure everybody was okay.
That's sweet.
I was out there running. So they really, really took good care of us. The first time I had to do 15 miles was very momentous. I was scared to death.
Yeah. That's like that
And
first big milestone. You probably heard it on my mom's episode, but she had
yes.
the same thing, that she was like, that's the first one where you're proving to yourself that you can do the marathon. So it can be, it's a big buildup, and it can be a little
Yeah,
intimidating for
because
sure.
obviously I had only run 13 miles prior. But, in my running group, there was a woman who was 62 years old. One of the coaches was 60 years old. So I had role models and they had run many marathons before. So I said, all right, they can do it. Somehow they've been through this. I should be able to do this.
Yeah.
And, so I got the 15 miles done. And I remember going back into their store at the end. And there was another runner in our group who was like bragging about my accomplishment to everybody. Well, he had just done the same thing, but he's like, this was her first 15-mile run. He must have yelled it out like 3 times. He was prouder of me than I was. So
We need a hype man in our life like that. For sure. Yeah.
awesome. And then God bless Fleet Feet. They let us use their wonderful torture devices because I would have muscle cramps at the end of all of these runs.
Yeah.
So they had massagers. There's one that's pressure loaded and you kind of put it around your muscles and you roll it up and down. They had something that looked like a hair dryer, but it's actually a massage gun. You've seen them now. They're available
like
now. But in those
Theraguns.
days,
Yeah.
I had never seen one before. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm going to pummel myself with this. Well, that just felt so good. That's good torture, if you know what I mean. I know you know what I mean.
Yeah,
but,
totally.
So that was great. They would let us use those devices. And then, I had the same feeling after the 16-mile run, the 17, the 18. And then as we got toward the end of training, I started getting I got on my 18-mile run, I got foot pain and I thought, oh no. And I started catastrophizing. Is this a stress fracture? Is this plantar fasciitis? Is this the end of my marathon training? Oh my God. It turned out,
Yes.
yeah, it turned out that I probably just needed new shoes.
Sure.
So
and you're at Fleet Feet, so they were hopefully pretty helpful with that.
Yeah, exactly. So I got new shoes and it took a while to get the right shoes, actually, even though they have this wonderful imaging system to get the right size. My feet are different sizes, actually. So to get just what's right. And then they taught me how to do the marathon tie, which is tying the shoes in a way so it's tight enough, but without really hurting the top of your foot.
Right.
Because I had been tying my shoes too tight. I mean, who knew there was so much science to this,
Oh my gosh, it's a whole world. It's a whole world you can get into.
Yeah. So to get the right pair of shoes, I ended up getting Hoka Clifton 6 at the time. That was the generation. And I had inserts in there and I learned all about putting stuff on my toes, in between my toes, and Body Glide and Vaseline to prevent blisters. And so they made sure I was knowledgeable and had everything I needed. And then, the good news is that when you do a long run, I felt very worthy to go and get a Dunkin' Donuts, a really nice donut, an iced coffee. And so that was my treat after my
you
long
have
run.
A sweet treat. Yes.
But to be honest, some days in training when I did my long runs, I was too tired to even walk into the Dunkin' Donuts store.
I get that too. Yeah.
And they didn't have a drive-through. If I had to walk into the store, no.
I can't do it.
Not do it, even for a donut, and the coffee, which I so desperately want. But
right.
So then on the 20-mile run, we went to a new trail to do this long as a group. The group went to this trail, and my daughter-in-law came to meet me to encourage me and to run in the last few miles with me. 6 miles, she was running in with me. And she was training for an ultra marathon at this point.
Wow, good for her.
She met me and I started bonking on the long run, seriously hitting a wall. And she's like, well, what have you had to eat? And I said, well, I've had one gel. She's like, you've had one gel? And I said, yeah, and maybe a few Fig Newtons, because that was my favorite snack on the run. And she's like, you are so underfueled. She's like, you need to get something in that body. So I fueled a little bit more, and then I somehow managed to make it to the end. But she let me know that it just wasn't adequate what I was doing. Yeah. And I don't think I would have made it to the end of that long run without her. And the following week, we actually did a 22-mile run because that
Okay,
was
so
in
you went
our,
over 20.
we
Okay,
went
cool.
over 20. And I don't do that anymore. That was the only
Hmm.
time I've ever done that. But at that time, and it was optional. You didn't have to do it with the training
Hmm.
group. They let you know that that wasn't necessary.
Okay, yeah.
But psychologically, I felt it was necessary.
Sure.
Like in
That's what
my
I always say
head,
about like the over 20-mile runs. It's like it's a mental thing because it's just more time on your feet. But yeah, if you need that like mental, I guess
yeah.
I don't know, like encouragement to that you can run over
Yeah.
20 or you can get a little closer to 26 for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's, as a 65-year-old runner now, I don't do that. But
Yeah.
back then, as a youthful 59-year-old runner, I I went ahead and did the 22 just for my mental game.
Yeah.
And
Makes sense.
my plan for the run, and I did it during the all of my training, was to run the first 6 miles and then to do the Galloway run walk method for the rest of it.
Cool.
And so that's the plan that I stayed with at that time. And I was so exhausted. I mean, I needed an inhaler at the end. I have asthma, so I had to take
Mm,
my inhaler at the end of it. The Fleet Feet people had made all this wonderful food for us. I couldn't
that's so
eat a thing.
sweet.
My stomach was like, no, no,
Yeah.
we're not eating. Just give me your wonderful massage torture devices. I'll take
Right.
those. And
That's
so
so
that was
funny.
the end. That was the training. And then we went into taper week and all of those wonderful nerves. Every possible doubt that's in your head comes up like, oh
Yeah.
no, I don't think, what was I thinking? I don't know if I can do this. I ran 22, but that I have 4.5 more. How could I possibly do it? I barely made it to the end of the
Hmm.
22. So all of those wonderful fears and thoughts came in. That all went away the day before the marathon. Because
Yeah.
the day before the marathon, I was so excited. I was just excited. It was
I
like, oh
love
my
that.
God, I have been training for months for this. And
Yes.
this is it. Like, this is it. From June to October, I had been training every blessed week.
Yeah.
And I had done pretty much every training run because I was afraid. If I didn't do one, I was scared. Like, oh my God, I'm not,
I'm not
you
gonna be able to
know,
run it. Yeah.
I'm
It's
gonna
a
be able to do the
super common
marathon.
mindset. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's good to have that because that forced me to get out there and run. I had to get
Yeah.
up really early because I would run before work. I didn't want to run after work.
I feel
So
that.
yeah, my colleagues were at work were like, "You've done what this morning?"
I know, and it's kind
Oh,
of
I
a
ran.
flex.
You did what before work,
Yeah.
but it gave me such a sense of accomplishment. I think it brought new energy to my work, to be honest,
Yes.
my work
Yes.
day.
Yeah.
And then so I would do that during the week, and then all my long runs were on the weekend. And I would say to my husband, "Bye," because I'm such a slow runner. I'm what they call a back of the pack runner. That
Sure.
it would take me, 3, 4 more hours by the time I drive to the trail, warm up, do my run, cool down, drive home, shower. That's half of my weekend day was totally devoted to that. And I'm lucky that
Yeah.
I had the time to do that, you know?
Sure.
And that was only when I got to the long runs, of course, that it took, but it took a while.
Yeah. It's very time consuming.
So the day before the marathon, I was so excited. I had my checklist of gear, my checklist all made out of what I needed. So I had it all laid out the night before. And I was my pre-race meal. I think I had pasta, of course, and um, I, um, I even got a decent night's sleep, and I think I got like 5 to 6 hours of sleep, and that's the
Pretty
only
good.
time that's ever happened. Most nights now, when I do a marathon, I get like 3 hours sleep because I'm
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Yeah.
nervous. But
Yeah.
I slept okay, and I woke up the next morning, and I was just like, "Oh, this is it!" And it
It's
was
the
almost
day.
I make an analogy to that, like right when you're having babies and you're having your first labor pain. I was so excited because I knew that tomorrow my life would be changed. There would be a new
Mm,
chapter. I didn't know what it was going to be, but I knew it would be a new chapter. And
I
that's
love
how
that.
this felt. This felt that one way or another, tomorrow it was going to be kind of momentous.
Yeah.
So, if I refer to my travel journal now, just for a minute,
Yeah.
I wrote song lyrics for each phase of the journey, and
Cute. I love that.
the song lyric for this one is called "One Day More." And I was so excited. I had an inner lightness and an inner smile. This was it. I got it at 5 a.m. I had a light breakfast and I went and met with my Fleet Feet group because we all were just going to connect and say hi. We weren't going to run together. Obviously, we were all going to go at our own pace, but I said hi to my training mates and got ready to go. I had my gels. I had 3 apple cinnamon gels and 3 Stroop waffles, and that was my fueling for that particular race. And they had fueling on the course, but I didn't want to rely on that. I had a vest. I had my own hydration on, and I was just so full of adrenaline that it wasn't funny.
Yeah.
It was in the mid 50s. There was just a mild wind. It was perfect. I had blessed weather for my first marathon. Played the music, played the national anthem, 8 a.m., gun time, ready, set, go. And the lyric for miles 0 to 6 are happy, happy, happy.
Love it. Everything's feeling good. Body's feeling good. The energy's there. Body's
feeling good. Adrenaline was flowing. I was so grateful. I was so thrilled. I was in this group of runners with all this positive energy. I call it the honeymoon period of the marathon.
Sure. Everything's right for the first
Everything is good.
Yes.
I had disbelief that I was there. And I was relaxed and probably running too fast. Yes, I kept telling myself run slower, but here's all the crowds, And I was in the crowd and I was running too fast.
Yeah.
And so around mile 6, the adrenaline surge started to wear off. Mm-hmm. And so the tagline for mile 7 to 13.1 is the song lyric, and now life really begins.
That's a perfect description for those miles.
It's a chorus line for those of you who haven't listened to the soundtrack from a chorus line.
I love it. I love it.
So I started doing my run walk. I would run for 1 minute and 30 seconds, and I would walk for 30 seconds, and I just kept that up until mile 13.1. And that worked really well for me, and it was fine. And I knew I had run, half marathons before. And so that was all fine, but it wasn't easy.
Yeah.
It was okay, but it was definitely real life. Yeah. And then the song lyric for miles 14 to 17 is, and I would walk 500 miles.
That's so good.
So
good.
My husband was waiting for me at mile 14, and it was just such a thrill to see him and, his smiling and taking pictures. And so he gave me a little energy boost, thank God, at mile 14. And then on this course, you had to run to mile 17, turn around and come back. It was an out and back. And it was really hard, but getting to the turnaround was a milestone because it felt like, all right, now I'm on my way back into the city. Yeah. This is the furthest point away from Hartford. Now I'm on my way back.
Yeah.
And it was Halloween. So people had these really gorgeous Halloween skeletons and decorations and things out. So that was rather entertaining on the way back. But by the time I got back to my husband, so he just had to cross the street and then he was at mile 19. I was absolutely brain dead. I think I had hypnotized myself and I was slowing down with every step. And I was kind of plodding, and I got to him and I gave him my vest because I had drank every drop of water and I had used up anything that I had with me. So I handed it off to him, and he said, how are you doing? And I told him the truth, which was, I have no idea on earth how I am going to make it however many miles I have left to go. And I couldn't even do the math because my brain was fried. Yeah. And he very unhelpfully told me that I had 7.2 miles left to go.
Thanks for that. Yeah.
But anyway, so I took off. I kept doing the run walk. And miles 19 to 24, the song lyric is, "This one's for you." And that's because I had listened to many running podcasts, and on one of I think it was the Marathon Training Academy podcasts, they had given a tip to devote each mile at the end to a member of your family or someone you love, a friend, a loved
That's
one.
so good. I like
And
that.
that's what I did. So starting at mile 19 to mile 24, my sister, my mom, my dad, my sons, my daughters-in-law, my husband, everybody had a mile. And
Yeah.
I would think about them. I would picture them. They were encouraging me, and I couldn't stop because I would let them down. That was their mile.
Yeah. You're like, I got to do it.
I got to do it. It's for
I'm
them,
committed.
And I
That's
could
sweet.
hear their voices, and my mom and dad had gone through very, very hard times, and so I thought they were tough. They got through it, and
Yeah.
so I need to be tough, and so that strategy I would recommend to everyone. That
Yeah, that's a
really
great one.
worked well. And then God bless the Hartford Marathon Foundation, because someone had the brilliant idea at mile 22 to make a candy tent. And so I stopped at the candy tent and I got a Hershey's Kiss, I think a little Reese's thick candy buttercup.
Oh, because it's Halloween. Yeah, you gotta have candy. I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
Exactly. And then I had a flat drink of cola. And oh my God, that little bit of caffeine, just that little bit of caffeine. And, it was just what I needed, because my brain woke up again a little bit.
Sure.
I needed that brain. And I remember at mile 23, a truck was going by on the highway next to us, and the trucker beeped his horn, and I waved. And the guy running next to me looked at me and said, "How do you have the energy to raise your arm?"
You said it's that Coke that I just found back there. Yeah.
So kept on doing it. And then, it was just so hard. At mile 25 to 26, though, the theme is Gonna Fly Now from Rocky. And there was a nasty little bridge at mile 25 that I had to run over.
Always one.
To get back into the city. And it probably was nothing. But to me, it might as well have been Heartbreak Hill in Boston.
Right.
Because it was so dead. But that mile I had purposely saved, dedicated to my daughter-in-law, Allie, who ran ultra marathons. And at that very moment, she was running a 24-hour ultra marathon.
Oh, at the same time.
Wow. I knew that she was going to do it and that she was tough. And so I tried to channel that. And I'm like, all right, Allie would want me to do this. She would want me to she would do this. She would hang over. She would hang in there. So I did that. And I somehow got over that bridge, because that probably was one of the hardest things to do.
Yes.
And then fortunately, after the bridge, you get to go downhill a little bit.
That's always nice.
I entered Pearl Street, which was one of the last streets before a turn, and there were crowds all along the road, and they're cheering, and they've got pom-poms, and there's that energy, and they're clapping, and they're like, okay, you only have, a quarter mile. And I got to the end of that street and rounded that turn. And there is a beautiful archway in Hartford called the Soldiers and Sailors Arch, and it is just before the finish line. You run under the arch, and then you run to the finish line. And I almost now, when I see that arch, I almost break into tears, because I still remember that feeling.
Yeah.
It was the first time that I felt that I was going to finish. I was really sorry. This is like 12 years later. This is still hitting me.
I still get chills. Yeah.
And I was going to finish. I was really, really going to do it. And then I saw my younger son and his wife, Steph and Evan, and they had a sign, "I'm proud of you," and they were cheering me. And my husband was there taking pictures and cheering me. And, then I went over that wonderful, wonderful line. That's the most beautiful blue and red and black stripe you're ever going to see in your life. And I think the picture, they always say, make sure you look up for that finish line picture. And I have that picture on my bookshelf, and it's I have that combination of grimace and smile.
It's like, I
achieve
did
that
that, but that was hard.
at
Yeah.
the finish line because I was in so much pain, but I was so happy. And I just can't, that feeling. And
Yes.
that's what I want to let everybody know is that feeling. People used to ask me all the time, do you get a runner's high? No, I never get a runner's high when I'm running, not ever. At best, I tolerate it.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
man, do I feel good when I finish a run. When I
Mm-hmm.
finish a run, that sense of accomplishment, that sense of pride. And I don't care if you're running a full marathon, a half marathon, a 5K, or a 2K,
Yes.
that feeling of finishing is worth it. It is. If it
Yes.
was hard for you went out there and you gave it your best, oh,
It's the best
you know,
feeling in the world.
yeah. So I got that precious little mylar blanket and that medal, and that was my first marathon in the books. To this day, that is my PR.
Mm. Yeah.
But that's because the next year was 2020 and there were no marathons. By the
Oh,
time
sure.
I actually ran a marathon again, it was 2022 and I was 3 years older. But
Sure.
that marathon was life changing. It was life changing. People used to say that and I didn't believe them. And I came out of that marathon with such a new attitude. It was
Yes.
like, well, if I could do that, what else could I do? And I wrote a grant after that, and an NIH grant. I don't think I would have done that if it hadn't been for that marathon. I came back with a marathon attitude that
Yeah.
was like, even if I fail, even if I don't succeed, it's okay. I'm getting out there. I'm
Yeah.
doing it. I'm trying. And the marathon really reinforced that attitude.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, it's hard. It was hard.
It's
It was
supposed to
very,
be.
very hard,
Yeah.
but it was so worth it. It was life changing.
Oh, that's incredible. I'm getting chills. I always get choked up on the finish line stories, but yeah, that's incredible. And I always joke that, like, even for myself, like, I feel like my life existed in two pieces: before I ran my first marathon and after I ran my first marathon. And you're so right that everything feels so small when you do something hard like that. Like, if I can do that, I could do anything. It's just about proving to yourself that you can do it. So
Yeah,
that's incredible. And I wanted to kind of circle back. You said something in the beginning about how when you first started running, you didn't really or before you first started running, you didn't really do anything for yourself. So what did it mean to you to do something like this, like crossing the finish line and doing that for you?
that is what it felt like. I mean, that's kind of what got me through the training runs too. It was something for me. It was for my well-being and my health. And I knew that as a 50-ish something person, I better start attending to my health because all of the signs were heading in the wrong direction. And this is the best. Not only is this the best thing I ever did for my physical health, because obviously my numbers all improved, right? My cholesterol improved, my blood pressure improved, all of my physical indicators, my VO2 max is probably improving, but my knees. I mean, people used to, when I said I was going to start running, all of my friends tried to convince me it was a bad idea. Oh my
Mm.
God, your knees are going to, this and that. People started sending me articles that it was going to cause acute heart damage when I
Oh my
ran a
gosh.
marathon. And like, thanks a lot, friends.
Right, right. It's like,
But and to be honest, my knees used to hurt when I was hiking, but after training for the marathon and doing strength training, my knees felt better than they had ever felt before because now I had the supporting musculature.
absolutely.
But
Yeah.
more than what it did for my physical health, my mental health improved by 300%.
Mm-hmm.
I used to be a worrier. I was kind of, had some depression on and off. When I'm out there running, my mind is clear. I'm not ruminating about things. I'm not worrying about things. I can't. I'm too physically exhausted
Yeah.
to do that.
But it
And
really does, like, I mean, I don't know if you feel like this, but when I'm on a long run, right, and I have time to think, if it's you're brain dead and tired, right, but I think it feels like it moves the clouds out of the way so that you can think a little bit more clearly. Do you feel like that?
absolutely, some of my best ideas have come on a run,
Yeah,
on
I totally
on
agree.
a long run. Yeah, it's kind of like soothing. It's always like some people say they get their best ideas in the shower or in the car. It's kind of like that. It's very soothing is the wrong word because my body is never soothed, but but
Yeah.
my mind is.
Yeah.
And also because, training for the marathon, I was trying to learn to be mentally tough and doing these mental tricks. And so I had this ritual I would go through on a long run where I express gratitude for every part of my body from the ground up. I start with the toes. It's sort of like progressive muscle relaxation, but it's
Yeah.
expressing gratitude. So
Yeah. It's like
thank you,
body scans.
toes. Thank you, feet and arches. You've done such a wonderful job. Oh my God, those ankles, you're so strong. Those calf muscles, those quads, those hamstrings. I would go all the way up. I would thank my heart, my lungs, my eyes, my ears, every part of me, every part of my body I would express gratitude. And by the time I had done that, like many miles would have gone by. It was kind of
Yeah.
a good ritual. So I was also trying to train my brain at the same time. So I can't say enough about what running has done for my mental health. To this day, I used to get like seasonal affective disorder every fall and winter. And now I will purposely put a spring race on the calendar to force me to get out and train in the winter. And I don't have any seasonal affective disorder anymore. I am feeling good.
Yeah. That's so
Yeah.
important. I love
Yeah.
that. Amazing.
But
Well,
I
cool.
definitely would have been voted person least likely to run a marathon before that.
Yeah.
I was such a couch potato. I devoted so much effort to my work, but
Yeah.
that was like on the computer or sitting or,
Right. Right.
doing emails or whatever it was. It was never moving my body.
And it was not for you, right? Like I think that's the theme that we keep coming back to on this one is like, yeah, you can put your time into your work and you can be passionate about it, but it's not always for you. It's for somebody else. You're doing something for somebody else. This is
Yeah.
one of the only activities that's truly for you. And I think that's so
I get a
important.
lot of gratification, or I did, out of my work before I retired, but
Yeah.
it was something that I knew I was good at.
Yeah,
This was
yeah.
something that I knew I wasn't good at, and I'm not
Yeah.
really good. I'm a very slow runner, and it's very hard for me. And that makes it even better because
Yes.
I'm doing so every time I toe the start line. I don't know if I'm going to be able to finish, to be honest. I don't always know that. And yet when I finish, oh my gosh, there's the high. There's the
Yeah.
high.
Yeah.
Tried it. It was hard and I did it.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I want to talk about like what's changed since your first marathon too. But before we do that, I always love to ask for a piece of advice after we tell these first marathon stories.
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
I think we've had plenty of advice through this, but
yeah.
if
So
you
many
could,
pieces of advice. The first one
it's
is
been great.
is
Yeah.
to just do it, and
Yeah.
to don't believe that self-talk that says you're too old. Because I'm 65 years old now, and the people in my running group were in their 60s. And if I had believed that, that's an ageist, sexism and racism we know are bad, but we still accept ageism. And
Right.
ageism stereotypes people based on their age. I am now a member of a running group, and I've got people in their 70s and one gentleman who's 80 who's still entering races.
Let's go. That's so awesome.
Yeah. And not, do we run fast? No.
Don't need to.
We might run a 5K, we might run, whatever distance it is. I respect every distance. But I want to be one of those people that's out there still running when I'm 80. So the first thing is, don't tell yourself that it's not possible. Yeah. Yes, you have to train. You're not going to go out tomorrow and run a full marathon. It takes a while. If you can join a training group, I think that's really very helpful. That encouragement and that group really helps a lot, especially on those long runs that, those are harder to do alone.
Totally.
For your first one, I don't mind doing them alone now, but for that first one, when that 15 mile is the most daunting thing you've ever done, to have some people encouraging you is really helpful. Yeah. I would say if you can afford a coach, get a coach. I mean, I didn't have a formal coach back then. More recently, I have done that. That is extremely helpful. Get fitted for proper shoes. Oh my God.
Oh, great one. I'm glad you said that.
Don't wait for the foot pain. Don't wait for the ankle pain. And, don't get upset if it takes a while. I would try a pair of shoes and they would be good for my toes, but then my Achilles would start to hurt. I'm like, all right, that's not the right pair. So you really have to do a little bit of trial and error. Fleet Feet has a generous return policy. They want to make sure you're in the right shoes. So go to a running store that has a good return policy that won't let you, that'll let you try them out and make sure that they're the right shoes for you. Strength training, strength training, strength training. If you are a 59-year-old or 60-year-old or 65-year-old runner, strength is everything. I have intermittent trouble sometimes with different parts of my body. And it's because I'm not doing enough. I had a job where I was mostly sitting, so my glutes are really weak. And that's a problem. That's a real problem when you're running. So I really recommend strength training a lot. And then I know on your show, you've been such a proponent of fueling. And my fueling game was not great up until very recently. I did not have the fueling game nailed down. And that's something that I've improved at when we talk about what's changed. That's probably one of the biggest changes. So
cool. Very cool. I love it. All great pieces of advice, whether you're, like you said, for your 50 plus community, but for everybody. All of that applies to everybody. So I think that was great.
Yeah. One more piece of advice is go slow. Go slow. Don't do what I did that first college. If I had done it right in college, maybe I would have been a runner then. Who knows? But don't go out there and try to run fast. You don't get a prize for that unless you're in a race.
So true.
They say on the podcast that you have to do your easy runs easy. And that is so important. And it doesn't matter if, what your pace is. You gotta go slow because that's what gets you back the next day.
Yes.
That's what gets you back there. Your goal in training should be to want to come back again the next day.
Exactly. Yeah, I try to talk a lot about running as like a long-term relationship. You want to think about, you running 10, 20 years down the road, not the race that you're training for right now. Of course, you're going to have like individual goals for each race, but think about your long-term relationship with running. And if something is in the way of that, or if you're doing something that's, potentially like sacrificing your relationship with running, it's not worth it. 100% agree.
Yeah.
That's great.
And I thought I'd be a one and done runner. I thought one marathon, that's it. I'm going to never, you always think that at the end, like when I thought I was going to die, I thought I'm never going to do this again, blah, blah, blah. And that thought leaves you within like a week. Yeah. You're looking for your next
sometimes
marathon. Yeah.
Sometimes it's quick, but here you are, seven marathons in. So you've
7 marathons in, 12 years later. Yep. So I didn't run one again until 2022, but I've run about overall. It's in preparing for this interview. It was really a lot of fun. I went down memory lane and I pulled up. Athlinks has a place where all of your runs are stored. All your statistics are stored online. Cool. if you want them to be. And so I went back and looked because I don't remember how many runs I've done other than the full marathons. I remember every one of those, but so it turns out I did like more than 25 Ks, about 14 10 Ks and 14 half marathons and now 7 full marathons in the past 12 years. And so it's just been such a wonderful journey. It's been such a wonderful, awesome journey. And every time I sign up for a full marathon, my husband looks at me with shock and it's like, I didn't think you were going to do that again. It's like, no, neither did I.
But here we are.
We are.
Another one on the calendar.
I just ran one a few weeks ago. So
Love it.
It's amazing. It's amazing. I run them for different reasons. One of the reasons I sign up for full marathons is that it does force me to get out there and train.
Yeah.
And it keeps my body and my mind healthy.
Yeah. Having that date on the calendar is super important. Just giving you something to continuously work towards is definitely key. But I mean, you talked about fueling a little bit as something that's changed, but what else has changed from, first marathon now that you've ran number 7?
So many things have changed. I mean, I've tried to soak up every bit of knowledge that I can. So I listen to every podcast that I can. Marathon Training Academy has been a really helpful podcast. I got a lot of really excellent tips. Your podcast now that I have found that is so wonderful. And so I would encourage people to listen to learn as much as they can. Through those resources. I've had a couple of coaches. And so strength training has changed. I've really learned that I really need to target problem areas. I've got some weakness in one side and I really have to work on that. I have to stay tuned with that. I've given more respect to the recovery aspect of running. I have to take rest days, and I also have more respect for cross training. I used to just poo poo cross training. I thought, oh, cross training means it's a rest day.
Yeah.
No, I actually go now. I'll do 30 minutes on the bike or 30 minutes on the elliptical. Sometimes I'll swim because that's really good for me aerobically and it's not so hard on my joints.
Yeah.
So I take the cross training a little bit more seriously, and just hydration I've gotten more serious about, nutrition. I've learned that every aspect of the game is important. It isn't just about the running. The mental game lately has been the most important aspect for me. When I start to get discouraged later in the race, I need every ounce of everything that I
Yeah.
can possibly bring to bear, because it's not easy, as you know,
Yeah.
as everyone knows, it isn't easy. Once you get to a point that your body or your mind or your brain is saying to you, you might not be able to do this. You want to stop now. It takes
Having to fight that. Yeah.
everything to keep going. So
Mhm.
I would say everything has changed, but for the better,
Totally.
for the better. And I know now that I can finish, and that's the biggest change.
Yes. Yeah. That really gets you over the hump. And then you can be focused. Then, like you said, you can focus on the strength training and like the being, I like to say, like being a student of the sport. Like you get to get
Yeah.
into the nitty gritties of things once you get the first experience out of the way, where you do it, you accomplish it, and then you learn from it. I think that's how we grow in this sport for sure.
And one of the things that's changed in the environment since I started is there's so much more respect now for slower runners. It
Yes.
used to be that there was a lot of disdain and like,
Totally.
oh, well, if you're running that, you shouldn't even be on the course. You used to
Totally.
see comments like that. And you don't really see that as much anymore. Like, tomorrow, as we're taping this, tomorrow is the New York City Marathon, and there will be people out there cheering on those people who come in last,
Yes.
late at night. And God bless them. Because
Yes.
anyone who's ever run a marathon knows, I don't care if it takes you 3 hours or 10 hours, it is hard.
Yes.
You are pushing yourself to your limit. It's whether you're an elite athlete, that's ridiculously hard. But if you're a back of the pack runner and you're out there for 6, 7, 8, 9 more hours, oh my God, you know what you have to do? What that takes to be on your feet for that long. So
Totally. Yeah, we're moving in the right direction. It's exciting. It's definitely exciting. Well, cool. Well, I want to get to our fun questions, our fuel and shoe questions. But before we do that, do you have anything coming up next? I know you said you just ran a marathon recently, but what are you thinking?
Yeah, so I do. I'm waiting to hear. I've applied to do to be a charity runner for Boston, because Boston is my dream.
Amazing.
I went to school in Boston. I used to work night shifts, and I would come home and I would see the runners running past as I was coming home during the day on Patriots Day.
Yeah.
And it would just be a dream to run Boston. And that might be my last full marathon. And if it is, what a wonderful way to end.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they'll accept me as a charity runner. I'm hoping to run for the Alzheimer's Association, which is a wonderful organization. And if they'll accept me, great. If I get in, terrific. If not, I'm going to look for one other, probably last full marathon that will be special, fun. I might do Mount Desert Island and Acadia. I don't know.
Cool.
I'm toying with a few ideas. I've put in for the Chicago lottery and the London lottery and the New York lottery so many times, and I haven't gotten in. So I've kind of given up on those. I was fortunate enough to run the Berlin Marathon. My daughter-in-law entered us as a team, and we were able to get in. So we ran that a few years back. Actually, it was the year that Eliud Kipchoge won and ran his record. And so that was the year that I ran that.
So cool.
And that was a favorite. The Marine Corps Marathon was a favorite one. So there are some marathons that are just so special. And the energy, the crowds, the rituals, the celebration is so big. So I just want to end my full marathon career that way. And of course I say end, and who knows, maybe I'll do that one more and say, well, maybe just one more. I don't know. I don't know. But for now, I would love to end my full marathon career. And then I plan to continue to run into my 80s.
Of
but I might
course.
run half marathons and other distances, just because the training is just a little bit less arduous and lengthy. And I'm grandmothering now, so I like to spend more
Oh,
time
congrats.
grandmothering. I'm having a lot of fun doing that, and I want more time for that and more time for travel. So, if I can run Boston, honest to God, if you want to see tears, you will never see as many tears if I'm able to do that.
Awesome. Well, I'm rooting for you. That's so exciting. It sounds like
Thank you.
you've got Boston as the goal, but you've got some others that you're plotting as well. So excited
Yeah.
to see how that turns out. Well, cool. Well, yeah, let's talk about shoes and fuel. These are my favorite
All right.
questions on the whole
So
episode. So
shoes. So I've already
shoes.
talked about how important shoes are.
Yes.
I will say that I have more shoes in my closet now than I have any right to have.
Yeah.
But and I've got all different types and all different brands of shoes. I kind of switch back when I'm training. I'll switch between different brands, different types. I've got some for the 5 or 10K distance that I prefer because they're faster.
Mm-hmm.
But for the marathon, I need the cushiest shoe possible. So I've run every single one of my marathons in Hoka's,
Mm-hmm.
Clifton,
Mm-hmm.
Clifton 6, 7, 8, 9, whatever. And every year I go to Fleet Feet to get fitted, and I say, I'm not going to run in Clifton this year. I'm going to run in something new. And I try like 5 different things. I always end up going back to the Clifton.
Yeah.
It's just the one, for my particular foot. I have something called a Morton's neuroma that I've developed recently, which is a pinched nerve in my foot.
Mm,
So I've
mm.
had to have special inserts made. So I just pop those in the shoes. So if you have any foot pain, really get it attended to, get it diagnosed, because the inserts do the job. And then I don't have to, when I was trying to run with that pain, it was throwing off my knee, my hip, and every other part. So it's really important to get a proper diagnosis and kind of get that taken care of. But
Absolutely.
yeah, my Hoka's I trust. I'm currently running in new shoes. Some in my training, I'm doing. It's at Asics. I think it's Mega Blast. It's their
Oh,
newest
okay.
shoe. It's not a
Cool.
carbon plate, but it's a little bit more of a special foam. It's a higher speed shoe, and
Cool.
I'm really enjoying that one right now in training. So, like I said, I now own too many shoes. I own some Tri-Nusa 15s because they're really cool looking, and
Yeah. Sometimes you got to get them just for the style. Like
they
there's
just
some really
look
cool
good,
running shoes.
But
Yeah.
what I found over the years is that I would have a shoe that I would really love. Like there was one year where I was running in some Saucony Endorphin. I think it was Pro, and I really loved them. But when the next year's iteration of that same shoe came out, it was hurting me. And I couldn't
Mm,
run in it anymore because sometimes they make changes to the shoe. So
right.
you can't get wrapped up in just one shoe brand because the shoe brands keep changing and evolving. So you have to really test it to make sure it's still the right one for you. This year's
Totally.
Clifton, I don't like as much as last year's Clifton. So I go back to, I can find last year's on sale. So I go back to last year's
Even
model.
better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Save
So
some
that's
money.
the shoes.
Cool. Love it. And what about fuel? What have you liked for fuel over time?
Fuel. I have tried so many different kinds of fuel, right? So I used Spring Energy gels early on. I used Stroop waffles. I liked those. Um, I've been dabbling and experimenting probably too much. So for the Berlin Marathon, I knew they used Morton on the course, so I decided I was going to use Morton, but it ended up not agreeing with me at
Mm,
all.
mm-hmm.
Um, last race I used UCAN gels, which worked well for me. But I think I'm now veering more toward the high carb drinks.
Okay. Yeah.
The texture of the gels is very problematic for me. And I
Yeah.
just heard someone say on your podcast that they had liquid gels, so I may try those
The liquid
because
goose. I still use
yeah,
those and I love them. I
I
definitely
may
recommend.
try that because part of the problem with the gels is the consistency.
Yeah, it's not great.
Yeah, so I've used Scratch energy drink. I've had some good luck with that. I keep that in one of my water bottles, the high carb version. So
Yeah.
I can, so when my stomach says no, I won't take one more gel, I'm still able to get in a little bit of the drink. I love using Element for
Mm,
salt and
yeah.
sodium and electrolytes. Especially in hot runs, I'll use that. So yeah, but I experiment too much. I keep trying different things.
There's no too much. I always tell people
Yeah.
trial and error is your best friend with fuel. Like it's what works for you. If you find something that works for you, stick with it. But I've even had points where like I've been taking the same gel that worked for me for so long that I just wake up one day and it doesn't agree with me, or I don't like the taste of it
Yeah.
anymore. So it's always going to be something that you'll have to
Yeah,
evolve. So
that's really it. That's kind of what happened with the Stroop waffles. It's like, I don't think
yeah,
I want to eat another one of these.
yeah.
And I will say, I want to say thank you to the Featherstone Nutrition people because they have a website on carb loading. They had an
Oh,
article
cool.
on carb loading, and they have a whole worksheet. And you can calculate how many grams of carbs you need 3 days prior to your marathon
That's very
and
cool.
for your body. And then you actually plan that very specifically with how many grams of carbs you're going to eat. That is just the best. I've had the best results from that.
Okay, cool. That's a great one. Yeah, well, I'll have to check it out myself. I haven't heard of that one. But that's super helpful. Those are the questions that I get from the show most often are around fuel and like how much do I need? What do I need for my body? And it's resources like
Oh,
that are so
it was a
helpful.
lot more than I ever would have imagined. It was
Right.
I thought, oh, there's no way my body's going to take in this many carbs. And oh, yes, it did. And oh, yes, it helped.
Yes. Yes.
I
Yeah.
think the strongest when I followed their plan, I think that's the strongest I've ever felt near the end of a marathon. Still hard, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Still suffering.
It's always gonna be hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I love it. Well, thank you so much for telling your story. It was great to walk through, and I think, like we said, there was so many beyond just the advice we gave at the end. There were so many lessons that you were able to drop in throughout from your first marathon and your experiences since. So, just thank you for coming on. This was incredible to
Thank
walk
you
through. I
so
really
much for
appreciate
having
it.
me, and I look forward to learning from others. And I am a continuous learner, and thank you for helping me to learn.
Oh, thank you so
And
much.
good luck in your race. And I can't wait to hear about your
Thanks.
Chicago race because I know that's coming up.
On Monday. Yes.
Waiting with bated breath for that next next podcast.
Yeah, Moms came out, and I tried not to talk about myself too much, and now we'll tell
You
the
were
other side of the
so
story.
good at that. You are such an awesome interviewer. And even for your
Oh,
own
thank
mother,
you.
you were so professional and you let her tell her story in the same way. It was awesome.
Oh, thank you so much. That means a lot to me. I really appreciate that. Well, cool. Well, looking forward to seeing what happens with Boston. I'll put all your information in the show notes so people can find you as well. But yeah, just thank you for coming on. This was
Thank
amazing.
you and happy running.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the My First Marathon podcast. For more stories, tips, and resources, head to myfirstmarathonpodcast.com. And if you want access to bonus episodes, exclusive resources, and extra support for your training, make sure you check out the community at myfirstmarathonpodcast.com/exclusives. You can also follow along with us on socials, Instagram and TikTok. That's at myfirstmarathonpod. If you want to follow along with my personal journey, that's at tay.says. Whether you're training, recovering, or just thinking about signing up, you belong here. I'm so excited that you're here, and we'll see you on the next one.